Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Bit Show. I am Meghna,
And I'm Upamanyu.
and we've got a great show planned for you. We're obviously be going to talk about the headline topic, which is how possums are viewed as the public enemy number one, but are protected and cherished in Australia. We're also be going to be talking about how the Galapagos of West Africa is being plundered by floating fish factories. We're going to have some other small nitbits and some new species, but Oops is going to tell us what else we have on the roster.
We have a story from Brazil, which is about mining and indigenous rights. And again, these are some of the stories that we have been following since the past few episodes. Lots of stories from Latin America as such. So, this is going to be another one of those. And along with that, we have another story from the EU Court of Justice, where Portugal was fined nearly 8.7 million euros by the EU court for failing to protect biodiversity. Along with that, there's a very interesting project with Kakapos and their breeding seasons that has been going on in New Zealand. Um, that's something I wanted to share with you guys, so we will talk about that. And as Meghna said, along with that, there are some smaller stories and species updates, etc.
Okay, so the possum story. Um, oh my god, 1 second. Like my laptop's kind of frozen. Just give me a second. Ah, there. I'm so sorry for the technical. Uh, just 1 minute. Okay, before we delve into the story, just a little background so that till my page refreshes, I can give you a little background. So, when Oops and I went to New Zealand, I think like we both went with the whole uh, notion that you always hear very good things about New Zealand. That New Zealand's beautiful, its landscapes are this, just positive things about New Zealand. But when you go to New Zealand, it's quite shocking when you hear about how they take their wildlife and how they treat their wildlife, like what conservation means for them. So in New Zealand, just like other places, it was colonized, and till the 1300s or so, there were no people there. The Maoris uh, had come in around 1300s, and then one of their biggest birds got uh, I don't know. Okay, so one of the biggest went extinct. Um, and then after that, what happened was that for a long time there was nothing happening there. But then the Europeans came in around the 17th or the 18th century. They came around, I think. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to figure this out as well. But the Europeans came in and then they thought that New Zealand looked really boring. Like, there was just this landscape and there were no wildlife to hunt or to look at or to hear. So they brought in a lot of animals with them, including what they say or what is rumored is that they even brought lions. But some animals survived, some did not survive. Now, till that time, when they introduced these animals, the birds in New Zealand weren't that popular for them. There are scriptures and there are documents or stories where they call the kiwi as the ugliest bird ever known. So they did not feel that patriotism or that affection towards the bird back then. But slowly, when generations over generations started staying in the country, they started feeling more and more patriotic. But the animals that they had introduced suddenly for them, those did not feel as patriotic, or they did not feel as if they belonged, because those animals that were introduced started um, kind of hunting on these birds. So these birds evolved in a way that they could not really, fight away predators. They could not fly. So they were birds that evolved in a way that that just can't be protected unless there's some intervention to protect them. So they started hunting down every other animal, and the possum became enemy number one. And we're going to talk about how it became, but I'm just going to first read um, the summary, and then we're going to talk more in detail about this. So it says migrants in New Zealand, and so hates possums. It's not a deal breaker, but I will bring her around. The author recounts a surprising encounter with a possum in their Sydney garden, contrasting New Zealand's view of possums as pests, Australia's protection of animal. New Zealand girlfriend despises possums, viewing them solely as destructive creatures. The author, however, found delight in the unexpected wildlife interaction, a rare occurrence in inner city environment. The possum seek refuge in a house plant, startle the author before fleeing. While disappointed she missed the event, the author understands her girlfriend's negative perception, shaped by the animal's damaging impact in our area, where they are considered a threat, unlike protected Australia. And our discussion question with this is, how do opposing views shape our position the same? My thesis was like surrounded on this, how difficult it was for Oops, but for me to understand that conservation meant killing, and killing with a passion was something I was ready for. Like when I went to New Zealand, I did not think I would see so much hatred, because you come from a country like India, which has way too much life, and you still do not see like polarized hate towards one species, taught from schools. Like you don't have teach you how to hunt down possums. You don't have books that teach you, as children, how to put up possum traps. So it was very hard for me to digest that there's so much hate and towards an animal that might be an opportunistic omnivore, or could be an opportunistic omnivore, but isn't actually out there with this bloodthirsty endeavor that it has to kill all the New Zealand birds. So it's quite match like a small cute marsupial, which is like just in Australia, can be that hated in New Zealand.
Go back. So I get that point of view as well, where the New Zealand ecosystem wants to go back to you know um, the pristine pre-colonial era times, where the birds are like whatever remains of the bird life in New Zealand is still protected, is still thriving. So that's sort of the viewpoint I think the conservationists now are coming from, um, which in that plan and in that achieving that, possum and stoats. I mean, stoats don't get talked about as much, but stoats I think cause a bigger problem than possums. But possums as well, stoats, rats, even feral cats or house cats, even they cause big threats to that entire plan of only the birds living here, whatever was there before humans arrived, basically. So Polynesians, it's like it's very
Yeah.
standard. Wherever they go, they bring rats with them. So that is pretty bog standard of Polynesian. So everywhere in the Polynesian belt that Polynesians and Melanesians have migrated to, even the remotest of islands like Rapa Nui, they have lots of rats there. So Polynesians, wherever they go, they bring rats with them. So that was the first wave of introductions, rats and pigs and things like that. Some dogs as well. Um, but after that, there was waves of introductions, but those were planned introductions, as in it was not that they just hitched a ride on a ship. They were intentionally brought to this country for fur maybe, or killing rabbits, or whatever the reason may be. Now those ancestors of ours were dumb. Now we think that they were dumb, that they brought all these things there, but then their lifespan was like 80 years, 100 years. They never thought that, they couldn't think beyond that. And we as humans are like that. We couldn't be think beyond that 50-year, 100-year mark, or our lifespan mark. So we're trying to correct that mistake,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, but my whole problem is that the mistake is us, not the animals. The animals are just
Correct.
trying to survive, right? They're
Animals
just
are
trying to
the
survive.
collateral
And
damage, kind of.
yeah, exactly. And I think this has been spoken in my documentary. So I did a whole documentary on possums and image
Mm.
of the possums, and how people in New Zealand actually like weir their cars like forcefully towards these possums. And when I show my documentary to people in India, it actually moves them. Like, people get really worried and anxious that this is how people treat animals in New Zealand. But for New Zealand, it's very normal. It's very normal to hate with a passion and to go after all these animals. And with possums, the problem is that they're visible. So you would see them in the night, you would see them by the road, or you would see them somewhere where you're staying. So possums are visible, so they became the enemy number one, as opposed to stoats or other animals, which are scavengers, which are hunters, which are predators. They do not come into the limelight as much just because are visible. And that is the problem. So there have been, I think, one or two documented cases. I've in fact seen a doc study, which is the Department of Conservation study in New Zealand, where there were two parts of the forest that were cordoned off, and they were studied for 10 years. One had possums and one didn't have possums, and both of them showed zero differences, like over 10 years, like zero differences in any change in the forest. So the whole and that is a study that had to be published because they did it, but they kind of like kept it hidden, like in one of their back pages in a small paragraph, just because they couldn't let that become like big. So the problem, at least I feel, with the possums and their images, possums might be doing some damage, but the amount of hate they're getting is not equal to the amount of damage they're creating. And secondly, it's the humans that have caused the problem. So it's the humans that need to primarily go, because the humans have huge pastures of land for cows, especially cows, and that is their main source of income in New Zealand. If they had enough forest cover, there would be no fight as such. There might be one or two birds that still need help, because I'm sorry, but New Zealand birds are a little useless. Like, by evolutionary standards, they do not come in the survival of the fittest. Like, they just do not come in the bracket. I understand they're unique. I understand, they're different, and you need to protect them, but not at this rampaging cost. I would never agree with this rampaging cost. I would say that create an enclosure for them, create huge enclosures for them, but not at this cost of killing everything else.
um I think that, I mean, the view that humans need to go, however true, is not an option. So whatever option we need to devise for whatever outcome we need to do has to be, you know humans stay, and humans do all the things humans like to do. But then above that, what other options do we have? That is the whole, like, conservation is that humans are never a factor in that conservation discourse.
No, but
um
with the Yes, but with the Kakapos, there is an island, right? The Kakapos story you want to do later. There is an island where they have made it predator free, and they try really hard to make sure that the Kakapos are breeding and their numbers are increasing. Like, it's
mm.
not even minimal effort. It's like maximum effort and interference you could do in another animal's life to make sure that the Kakapos are growing.
I think we will come back to this story. This is a very charged story for both of us because we feel the same way, but also there are certain points of differences for us as well. Let me do like a shorter story in the meantime, while Meghna um, figures her out her technical stuff. Um, so this comes from the Guardian, and this is again a little bit topical because it's about marsupials. So this says marsupials previously thought extinct for millennia, discovered in New Guinea. Um, Researchers led by Tim Flannery have rediscovered two marsupial species in West Papua, previously believed extinct for 6,000 years. These Lazarus taxa, the pygmy long fingered possum and the ring tailed glider, represent an unprecedented find in the scientific community. The long fingered possum, known for its elongated fourth digit used for extracting insects, was last seen in fossil records 6,000 years ago, despite existing 300,000 prior in Australia. The ring tailed glider, a new genus, is related to the Australian greater glider but glider uh, possesses unique features like unfurred ears and prenasile tail. This discovery highlights the biodiversity hidden within remote rainforests and challenges existing understandings of species extinction. So, I will quickly share my screen and show you what is being talked about here. The pygmy long fingered possum. This is the pygmy long fingered possum. Um, there you go. Um, very, very possum like, I would say. And then this is the ring
You don't
tailed
say.
glider. Are you back, Meghna? Is the
And
are
it's
the
called
issues
ring-tailed
solved?
because if you see, it's, I don't know. Somehow it was better to do the podcast from somewhere outside than at home. I don't know why it always has problems. The ring-tailed possum, if you can see, the possum's tail kind of goes in a ring and
Yes,
kind
the
of
ring tailed. This is the ring
circles
tailed
itself
glider.
into a ring. That
This
is
is
why
the
it's
ring
called
tailed
ring-tailed possum.
glider. Um, so this is sort of the area of
Yes. Okay.
discovery, and sort of Bird's Head Peninsula. That's where we discovered some photos of the team. Yeah, this is a very rodent-looking possum-like, you know, the pygmy long-fingered possum and the ring-tailed glider. Cool new discovery, but hopefully Meghna's issues are solved, so we can go back to our um, the public enemy number one topic.
Yes. That's the topic that I'm super passionate about, and I'm really sad that my problems are happening exactly during that.
Yeah, I think the problem is still persisting. Um, okay, I think Meghna's problems are persisting, so we'll do another topic and then come back to the this one. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Um, let me do this from this story from the Hindu, which says Kerala, Faunal Study Survey in Vazhachal adds 26 species to checklist of Wildlife Division in Western Ghats. A recent faunal survey in Kerala's Vazhachal Wildlife Division revealed 26 previously undocumented species, underscoring the region's biodiversity as a crucial Western Ghats corridor. Conducted by Kerala Forest Department and the Travancore Nature History Society, the survey involved 50 experts and forest staff across varied habitats. Researchers utilized multi-taxa approach, documenting butterflies, birds, and other fauna. Butterfly diversity was exceptional, with 175 identified, including 13 new to the area. Notably, red spot duke and Sahyadri purple spotted fitter. Bird sightings totaled 187 species, adding 10 new records like black stork and greater spotted eagle. Healthy populations of great hornbills were also observed. Um, so this is uh, this is a great one. I think these sort of surveys are also very important. I'm just wanting to share some of the images that are present in this article. This is obviously the great Indian hornbill, a beautiful, beautiful bird species. This is the angle sunbeam, as was mentioned in the summary as well. And here we see the other species, which is the Asian emerald spreadwing. And yeah, so this was basically a wildlife survey that was conducted in the Vazhachal Wildlife Division of Kerala. And this means that, like we do a census for ourselves every 10 years or so to know how many people are there, how many people of different cultural, socioeconomic backgrounds are there. Similarly, a faunal survey is also required to make sure that the fauna, as in the animals, plants, and everything else in that region, is in this case just the animal, just the fauna, are one, we know the accurate numbers of each of the different species there, which in turn helps us to focus the conservation efforts towards one species, or focus the money that we get towards that we sort of allocate towards one species or the other. So again, great effort, but again, these kinds of things keep on happening every couple of years, just because this is the way the government and the forest department sort of prioritizes one species over the other if a species needs more help, for example. Um, all right. I think um, Meghna should have recovered from the issues.
Yes,
Um,
I think it is mostly the LAN. I think that's causing some lag. But I've come back
right,
to the Wi-Fi, so I think
right.
that should be fine now.
All right. Okay, let's go back to our um, main topic, which we did not finish doing. Um, so I think in this plan, one, the species in New Zealand are exactly suited for their specific habitat, and they evolved over millions of years to be useless, as you say, into by today's standards, because that was what protected them from the predators that were there during their evolution. So but because we brought in this mammalian predators and marsupials, etc., that's what is causing the problems. Now, an option is to barricade a place and cordon off a place for these specific birds and animals, but that requires a lot of money, and it is cheaper to kill the possums than to create those safe havens. So
I
nobody
honestly,
cares for the possums, and it's cheaper to kill. So yeah, it's like an economic, socio-economic decision, which again, I don't condone it, but it is the reality of things.
no, but I mean the Kakapos story that you want to do. It is literally, I don't know if my voice came through that time or it cut off, but I was just saying that the Kakapos story that you want to do, it's literally that. Like, they have an island for the Kakapo, and then
Hmm.
they're putting in like 150% efforts to get this Kakapo to breed. So
Hmm.
people are like interfering more than they would probably be concerned about their own reproduction. They're more concerned about the Kakapos reproduction and if it will have babies. And there's like a camera on it, everyone's watching it, but they have an island cleared for that bird, and they've
Hmm.
made it predator free. They've made sure those birds can survive there, because those birds just cannot survive without our help. And according to Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, New Zealand birds would really not rank up there, like we and a lot of other animals that we really take care of carefully, they wouldn't rank up there because they wouldn't survive if you had to patch them up in the fittest. So you can make those enclosures. That is very much possible. There are other sanctuaries as well, like Orokonui and Zealandia, and other sanctuaries that do exist in New Zealand, and they're all predator free. There are big fences, big areas. There are notes there about the predators that they think cause harm and how they're protecting the place and all of that. So it's not like it's not possible, and these places even bring in a lot of tourism. So in that way, it's great that you have those. Even places like, I think, the Stewart Island that you went to, I do not know how much predators they have or they don't have,
No, it's not
but
predator free, but yeah.
but I think it's very known for like going and watching kiwis.
Hmm.
Like you go on walks or you go on guided hikes and you can see kiwis. So there are ways to do that. There is obviously a scaling down that humans also need to do. Like, the accountability shouldn't fall on the introduced animals, because those animals are also just trying to survive as much as these birds are. Like, nobody's trying to kill the other and be like, oh, I want to rule New Zealand, I have to take you all out. That is not the possums, the message, or the possum's survival technique. It's just trying to survive in the same space. It's just that space is also constricted. Now you've like mostly done away with most forest and have just pasture land. So where are these birds that you love so much supposed to survive with these introduced animals if you do not provide them enough forest cover?
Um, that's what I said. Like, it will cost a lot of money to do that, to cordon off all the areas for all the different birds, because all the birds here are flightless. Most of the birds here, most of the endangered birds here are flightless. Kiwi is flightless, taka is flightless, kakapos are flightless. So these are the most endangered birds in New Zealand, and they are all flightless. Or even though they are not flightless, some of the birds like kias are not flightless. They can take flight, but they nest on the ground, because the predator, that was their fittest. That was the Darwinian fittest for these birds, because the predator was up in the sky and nesting on the ground, losing flight, being slow, was what, you know, kakapos. There are accounts when the first Europeans arrived that Kakapos were spread from South Island to North Island. They were successful. They were hugely successful, but not in the current state of things. This is not what their environment looked like, and this is not their, the evolution that they did for millions of years. Now, that evolutionary pathway cannot be changed in 1,000 years or even 100 years. So now they have become these so-called quote unquote useless, because and needs a lot of help from us. But again, I think that is also connected with the national pride and the nation's plan, objective, etc. So I think what that is what the nation's people want as well. That's why government has planned for a predator free 2050 and things like that. So I
Yeah, but
think
see, the thing is, okay, even
cordoning
if
off costs a lot of money. That is the whole problem there.
that does cost money, but it is happening very actively across New Zealand, like the Kakapō Island that actually stays. Now, Kakapos might have been hugely popular, but if their numbers were decimated, it wasn't because
Mm.
of the introduced animals that their numbers were decimated. Their numbers were decimated by humans. When humans came onto the land, they started hunting down these birds, and then they introduced certain animals that probably decimated more of their numbers. But it was primarily the humans
Yes,
hunting
I
down the
agree.
kiwis, hunting down the kakapos, hunting down the kias, because they had these guns, they had time, they wanted a leisurely sport. So the decimation didn't happen because of the introduced animals. So I do not understand
No,
how
I
the
agree.
blame
I
is.
agree.
Why is the blame on the
Now,
introduced
now I
animals?
will tell you why is the blame.
Yeah.
Now humans have stopped doing that, but still the numbers are decimating because of these animals. Now we have stopped ourselves from doing it. Now we want to stop the next thing that is doing it.
We've stopped
So
ourselves
that's
from.
why we are blaming it.
No, but then we've stopped ourselves from doing it, but then we do not
Hmm.
give them the amount of space that they require because we have taken up over their spaces. Like we have taken up over the
Yeah.
entire area. And I think it's one of those countries where the landscape has changed phenomenally. Like you drive across New Zealand, it's just pasture land and pasture land. There's some forests, but mostly pasture land. So I
So
mean,
do you think
how can
any
you?
of those things can change?
Yes, exactly. You can, like, if the government really wanted, if it wanted to really save its birds, then you
Because
would try to save your birds.
meat
When
is one
you
of the biggest exports for the government, biggest sources of income.
I agree, I agree. But what I'm saying is that there has to be a middle ground. Instead of hating with a passion, you try to coexist. Because in India, even though, like, let's say, there are lots of news, lots and lots of news of how stray dogs, when they are very close in this territory with wild animals, they can pass on mange or other viruses. And this can be really bad for the wildlife, but there are ways that they're trying to sort this out. They're not going on like mass cullings. Mass cullings happen in certain areas because of some anger, because some dog attacked some person, but it doesn't happen throughout the country. There's not like hate for the entire species. And you and me both know that cats probably cause more damage than the possums do. The amount of cats that there are as opposed to possums, and the cats having a diet and an innate hunting sense, probably do more damage. But people do not want cats to be seen in that limelight. So it's easier to blame the possums and hate the possums with that passion than actually focus on other animals that are probably more involved in decimating bird populations. It's the image that I have a problem with, the way that it's being propagated, because possums are nearly not causing that much harm. It's other animals and obviously humans at the top, but we forget all of that, and we just like, okay, possum is enemy number one.
No, possums, toads, I think equally are hunted, but yeah, possums are the visible or the face of things. You need a face, or you need a something to represent that, or direct all your hate towards, or direct all your not hate, but direct all your anger towards. I think that symbol has become the possum. Now,
But
whether or not it is right or wrong, I really
But where is this
don't.
anger? Where is this anger for that animal stemming from? Because you introduced the animal is just trying to survive. So where is this anger stemming from? What has that animal done differently to gain that anger? You should be angry at yourself for coming to that nation and decimating populations by hunting down, by calling all those animals
Yeah, but we
ugly.
can't do anything by being angry at ourselves. That is the whole problem.
You can change a lot of things. Like if you really care about your animals that much, then you would change maybe the way pasture lands look, or you would change other things. but
Yes,
but
but that is more difficult to do and time consuming to do.
and inconvenient, I would say. People
And
just don't.
inconvenient also. No,
Yeah.
no, that is at the crux of everything. Inconvenient as in convincing a 5 million humans to do something, and killing like 200,000 possums, which is easier? Killing
Wait,
200,000 possums.
yeah, but you're convincing the 5 million people to kill those 200,000 possums with
No, you're
when.
not really not. You're convincing the 5 million people that if 100 other people, 100 people kill possums, you should not be hating on those 100 people. That is what you're convincing the 5 million people of.
No, you're convincing the 5 million people that possums are really bad animals that
Yes,
have
why are you
the.
convincing them of that? Because if your neighbor is a possum hunter, you should not hit him or hate on him. So that is, he's doing patriotic work. That is what you're convincing the 5 million people of.
No, but
Those
you
of the possum hunters are doing a good thing for the country, and they're good people. They're not bad people. That is what you're convincing the 5 million people of.
you're convincing the 5 million people not that if someone else is hunting a possum, it's okay. You're saying you should also hunt a possum. If you see
I
a
mean,
possum,
realistically, it's not possible for everyone to go out and hunt.
but everyone is. So, I mean, even in this article, if you see, he said that any New Zealand friends he has, they hate possums with a passion. I mean, they literally talk about weeding their cars and hitting possums, or
Yes,
killing
but not
possums,
everyone is
or
doing that.
trapping possums.
1.6 million people are trapped in Auckland. So they are literally, everything is urbanized. Not a lot of possum hunting or possum thing going on. Most of the things are happening in South Island. So don't hate on Southeast. That is what, the whole thing is, that this is good work. This is whoever's doing this. This is, they're doing God's work or whatever. And don't hate on them. That is the whole message. You're normalizing the fact that killing possums is okay. That is the
No, but no,
message.
no, no. But that's not the message. If it was that way, it would have been like, okay, there, Department of Conservation is your friendly neighborhood, whatever team, and it's taking care of this. Okay, that would have been the message. But it's not
Hmm.
like posters over posters that you should also kill possums. You should have books with like for little kids showing how possums are, the worst thing possible. You have ads. You remember the Toyota ad that
Hmm.
that the possums are saying, "I'm this generation roadkill." So like they made a mockery of the possums, and you don't have to get to that level of mockery and hate and vengeance just to make sure that if your neighbor is killing a possum, it should be okay. There are better ways of doing it. If 100 people are actually out there killing it, then there are better ways of saying that these 100 people, like we have also, right, forest rangers and different people who are specifically for work in the forest. There's a different way of sending that message out instead of
No, but
having
if
that
you
hate.
don't run this campaign, massive campaign, otherwise people won't be aware of the issue. You remember how much still goes on, how much some of our big name actors comes on the screen and talks about polio, and how polio drops are synonymous with having a good life. Polio vaccinations are synonymous with having a good life. They have been doing it for 20 plus years, and still people don't get it. That's the whole thing. You have to run these mass campaigns. That is the only way you're going to convince everyone, not only the people that are here, but also the people that come here, new people. You have to convince everyone from day one that this is what your country is all about. That is why it is so much. And everything that is done this way, every campaign, this, in this case it's a possum, but everything that needs to be mass proliferated across the country has to be done this way. Otherwise, there is no other way.
No, but my point is, one, the polio example is for actually like the children's good. It's for something that's good.
Yes,
that is
but
that is that
government has
is
decided this is good for the country. That
yes.
people of this country has decided that this is good for the
No,
country.
but I have two problems here. One, that you and the persons have lived for the same amount of time in the country, especially
Hmm.
the white settlers in New Zealand, not the Maoris, okay? But the white settlers have been at the same amount of time they brought in the possums. It's the same timeline. So how did you become Kiwi? Your fruits become Kiwi, your birds become Kiwi, everything became national pride. But the possums you introduced, they're not Kiwi enough. Like, why are they not Kiwi enough? Like, why are they not New Zealand enough? Because I would have agreed if you said that the humans came and long back, and then they introduced these animals. The humans already had national pride. These animals started destructing. They didn't know better, but they came at the same time, the same
No, but
timeline.
that has happened all over the world. Once we killed tigers, now we protect tigers. So that has happened all over the world. Like, it was not unique to New Zealand that New Zealand was only killing its wildlife, or America was only killing its wildlife, or Europe was only killing its wildlife, or India was only killing it. Everyone was doing it. And suddenly,
Yes.
one day, everyone realized that these guys are going extinct. So one group of people realized, like people like us, with that mentality, we realized that these guys are the things that we want to go and see, because our urban lives are so mind numbing that we have to go and see these guys, and these guys need to live, these guys need to be protected. That's why else, like, because we want to go and see them. Our children must have the opportunity to go and see them. That's why we protect them. Otherwise, what is the requirement for us to protect them, right?
Ye- True, I'm not saying that hunting wasn't a thing that happened everywhere across, but I'm just saying that okay, when we hunted down these tigers and all, for everyone it meant the same, okay, and then they started protecting them. But but there was no change in the fact that what I'm saying is that yeah, there was a change in the perception. I would agree with that.
Hmm.
But when you're changing your own perception, like you're calling yourself Kiwi, you're calling yourself a nationalist, how can these animals not be? You introduced them at the same time that you came there. How can that perception change all of a sudden? Because it's unfair on those animals. You brought those animals. They didn't ask to be put on a boat and then
Yes, but this is very different because it's not a landlocked country. For a landlocked country, it's a very different ballgame. But for a country which is an island, it's a very, because no one has anywhere else to go. No, no, I am talking about the animals. Animals have, naturally, they don't have a pathway to go anywhere else. Now, if it was connected to Australia, then it would have not been a problem, because the animals would have evolved that way, having possums in their backyard and things like that. Now the problem is, possums is a synonym. I'm using possums as a synonym for possum, rat, cats, everything. Ah, so now it's a problem. All of these animals are here, and they're not letting the birds breed. Now, there are two options: either create enclosures for the birds, or kill these guys. Or the third option is there, that we remove our pasture land, reduce export, reduce consumption, and all those things, which this government has, or this country has decided not to do. And they have focused all their efforts on killing these pests, as they're termed.
No, but tell me also this. The 2050 plan of predator free.
Correct.
How effective do you think it can be? Okay, with possums, they're really visible, so you can keep trapping them. But with stoats, they're very stealthy. Rats, even more. And rats multiply like crazy. Like for stoats and possums literally carry only one baby. Like they're a marsupial, like a kangaroo. They don't even reproduce that fast enough. But rats multiply like crazy. Stoats, not sure how fast they multiply. Do you actually think it is a realistic solution to go for a culling spree? How realistic is it? Especially, there are some forest areas even now, right? And if the animals go there and start breeding, there is nothing you can do. You can drop those DDT and other
1080.
chemicals and everything, but yeah, 1080. Yes, you can drop 1080, but it just doesn't seem like a viable solution to start killing everything. It is always a more viable solution, even if it costs a little more, to have wildlife havens and coexist with everything else that lives, because every other country across the world does that. Every other country
Um,
does that.
every other landlocked country. Islands, Australia also do the same for all their introduced predators. Papua New Guinea does the same for all their introduced things. Every other landlocked country. So you can't compare a landlocked country to an island. That is the first thing. And the second thing I would say is that realistic, this solution is more realistic than the alternatives. That is what I would say.
How?
predator like culling is more realistic. So the other alternatives is spending a lot of money and creating enclosures, which will cost millions and billions of dollars, which the government clearly must not have or clearly must not want to spend. These are the two reasons, and the public doesn't want the government to spend that kind of money. We want our taxes to be reduced, we want our living costs to be reduced, and all those different things. So the government has to balance both of those things, right?
No,
So
no. So if the narrative was never hate, if the
hmm,
narrative was never let's just cull this animal, if that wasn't the
hmm.
narrative that was thrown around in the last 50 years, and the narrative was let's save our beautiful wildlife, but let's save it at this cost and then coexist, then it would then the people would have been okay with these kind of big wildlife sanctuaries with protected
So you're saying people would have been okay with rising taxes and seeing this is where it is going to? I don't think people would have been okay.
not rising taxes, but like a
But
portion
how
of their
else will
money.
you money? How will you get the money?
No, no, a portion of it. Like even a portion of it, even probably now goes towards all of this. So, I mean, predator free
Yes, just the
doesn't
two
does
islands, just the Codfish Island and Rakura. These are the sorry, Codfish Island and Anchor Island. These are the two completely predator-free islands which is made for
no,
Kakapos,
no,
and a
not
tiny
those.
percent of the budget goes there.
No, but a big percentage of the budget does go towards the campaign that is Predator Free 2050. That is a big
Correct.
marketing campaign. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of campaigns. There's a lot of hoo-ha about it. So it's not like that goes for free. That also requires a lot of
But
money.
cheaper
So when
than creating another predator-free island or a predator-free zone
it might
has
be
to be.
cheaper. It might be cheaper. It might take longer to do that, but there are always ways of framing something. And I think this has just been framed very wrongly. And as someone from another country where you do see a lot of wildlife, and I mean, landlocked or not, where you do see that much wildlife, I've never understood that polarized hate. Like, polarized hate is something I don't think I agree with. That is not the way to get through with anything.
I think it's a valid point that this polarized head possums, and I agree with that. Possums again, I'm using for everything together. They don't deserve it, especially possums. Maybe just that possum species, the ringtail possums or brush-tail possum or whatever.
Brush
They
tail. I don't think there
they
are
do not
ringtail ones.
deserve that targeted hate, but if we do not do that, then I don't think we will just be in this situation. New Zealand will be just in the current situation forever. Like that will be the state, and we cannot achieve this because again, in the best case scenario, I would think that all of these things are happening all at once. There is some killings going on, but there is also management of wildlife, like cordoning of spaces and things like that. And also humans are we as a species, we are reducing consumption and reducing export and all these different things. Ideally all three would go parallelly, but unfortunately the first option, us doing anything, it's very difficult to
Yeah,
achieve.
and
And the
also
second option, cordoning off, I think some level of that is going on with some particular species, but I don't know. Maybe that effort needs to be increased in cordoning those things off. Cordoning areas off. Again, that involves a lot of culling and killing because you need to clear that area of all the predators first. But yeah, that can be a solution. Maybe a little more effort needs to go into that um, side of things. But the killings will have to continue a little longer, I am afraid.
yeah, I think my problem is here that there are things that we can do, but we would rather just do this one thing of hating on the possum, teaching the kids to hate the possum to this level that they go to another country where the possum is cherished and they can't look at it with a neutral
Hmm.
perspective. And
Yeah.
my whole thesis was about the fact that if you see something that looks like a human baby, um, would you not have that feeling, that innate feeling to protect them? And people from other countries, specifically the US, thought possums looked really cute, and they had that little maternal instinct towards them, that, oh, let's protect them. But Kiwis are brought up hating them. So there is no way that they looked at them as something that needs to be protected, or that needs to be fed, or that's just cute. Like, just the basic cuteness. That's the thing that they've kind of killed in the people. And I feel like that shouldn't be the way that you view any kind of wildlife. Um when like nature or New Zealand has let humans live and thrive in that space, we should let it should be a live and let live kind of a situation. And with possums, it's literally, in New Zealand, if you've ever heard, if you've been in New Zealand, the message is the only good possum is a dead possum. Like, that's the messaging that goes. It's really harsh. It's not nice to hear. And honestly, it's just a little disappointing that that is how conservation works in some parts of the world. It's very disappointing.
Yes. I agree with that viewpoint. I agree with that viewpoint. I think a little more effort maybe can be done in the clearing of space um, for particular species of birds and animals, because letting them die again is not an option as long as you know we are there to help those species reach some numbers. So letting them die is not an option. Reducing our consumption will take time, maybe an option in another 10 years time, will remains to be seen. Right now, not an option. Not a realistic option, not a pragmatic option. Killing, yes, definitely, because there has been a huge campaign to actually instill that sentiment, instill that sentiment of hatred, and those kinds of things. So definitely an option there. And the last thing is, yeah, if there is more investment that can be done towards cordoning of areas, setting up sanctuaries and things like that, then that should be the case. um we can focus on that as a people. And I think, I don't know what the best pathway is, but definitely there are some green parties. For example, there are some uh, uh, political bodies in New Zealand that are working towards some of these issues, and they are trying to resolve some of these issues. So maybe talking with the representatives there, you know, speaking with your vote basically, can also matter. All right. I think Meghna is facing some technical issues again, um, with her microphone as such. I will do. I think Meghna might have some more things to say on that speech, on that topic, but I think mostly we have covered that topic. Meghna might have some closing thoughts, but I will do another short one, a species discovery one, quickly.
Wait, am
Oh,
I
I think
audible
Meghna
now?
is back. Yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened with the mic. Um, no, but I was just talking about how there's like roadkill with the possums. So when people drive over these possums, some of them have like baby in their pouch, and these babies can't survive without their mother. So not everyone wants to kill every possum, and some people have a soft corner towards these tiny babies that are trying to. People take these. Yeah, so some of these people then want to um save these persons, so they bring them home, they have them as their pets, and it's really endearing because then they realize how beautiful these animals are. But at the same time, they have a lot of fear of being judged across the country that they have actually saved a person, and they have a person as a pet, so they have to be very careful about whom they tell and who they do not tell. So it's a very tricky situation, like to have even some amount of compassion for these animals, and it shouldn't be that tough to have this compassion. That polarizing, like what you've talked about, I think everything needs to go in conjunction. Like there probably needs to be some amount of culling, if at all people think there needs to be, but not for possums, maybe other animals. Possums are literally not doing that amount of harm. There needs to be more wildlife sanctuaries, and there needs to be some cut down on our consumption of dairy and beef, especially in New Zealand, or exporting it. Some change, landscape change. If everything can be done together, it would be ideal. Like right now, it's not ideal.
Mm, yeah, and I think one of the ways to achieve that is speaking with our vote, etc. There are parties, as I said, in New Zealand that are working towards that. For example, the Green Party. But yeah, I will remain hopeful. I will remain hopeful, but I also know the reality of things where it is very difficult to achieve those goals over, you know, inflation, the rise of cost of living, rise of housing, rise of, taxes, this and that, all the human problems that we have to deal with day to day. So it's very hard to convince the 5 million people that, you know, your money is going towards all these different other things, and you should care about these things, where the 20-year or long campaign, or whatever, however long campaign, has already instilled the opposite feeling in them. So it will take some time, but we can definitely hope for that, all of the points being now said, and try to see if a different, more balanced approach can be taken towards conserving the wildlife of Aotearoa.
Yeah. Here's hoping there would be some change, because honestly, how it is right now, it's not great. That amount of uh yeah, it's just not great for people coming from other countries and seeing it. um and that is not the way that conservation works. At least in other countries, it's not kal 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 kal. In some countries, obviously, like Upsa said, landscape matters a lot, but let's hope and see that there's some amount of positive change in the future, and there's more efforts in bringing people together to just save than just kill. So yeah, it's just a very passionate topic, I think, for me, and in some ways for Oops. That is why it just ran long up along with the technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, I think the topic is definitely polarized in opinions. I generally don't not I generally do not support the culling, and Meghna does not support the culling. So yeah, um, that's the whole thing there. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. And we knew this would run long, but and we have planned accordingly. So not a problem. This is a story that comes from the EU. Portugal fined 8.7 million euros by EU court for failing to protect biodiversity. Portugal has been fined te- 10 million euros, or 8.7 million pounds. Sorry, it was 8.7 million pounds by the EU Court of Justice for failing to protect its biodiversity, alongside a daily penalty of 41,250 euro until compliance is achieved. The court cited particularly serious infringements of EU environmental law stemming from a 2019 order to protect 55 designated sites, including Peneda Grace National Park under the Habitats Directive. The substantial fine, the maximum possible, aims to compel Portugal to conserve habitats and species. The daily penalty equates to 750 euros per unprotected site, decreasing as sites gain compliance. The court emphasized Portugal's rich biodiversity, 99 habitat types and 335 species, and the importance of its natural heritage to the EU. The European Commission has long sought enforcement of conservation efforts. And we have the discussion questions. How do financial penalties effectively balance conservation? Um, I think we were having this discussion um, while we were choosing the topic and writing the script as well, that do we actually know that if this fine is going towards will go actually towards saving biodiversity or doing some good with the whatever Portugal is lacking behind, or is it just a financial punishment for Portugal?
Yeah, I mean, there is no way to know that this fine that is being fined is actually going towards again some other amount of biodiversity, or just to Portugal itself. You pay this amount, and then we have a trust fund. When you start following all the guidelines, that we give this thing that you.
I think Meghna is having some technical difficulties again. Too many technical difficulties today, but that is the nature of technology and the format in which we have chosen to do our podcast. Yes, I think it was an important point there. If this is going towards saving biodiversity, this is a great way to actually make sure that um, the all the investments in biodiversity and all the investments towards that needs to, because obviously look, conservation costs a lot of money. Conservation, the way we want to do it and way we do it generally, costs a lot of money. Now that money has to come from somewhere, and if this fine is going towards that, then it's fine, it's great that this fine is being made. But if this fine is going to just fill EU's coffers, then this is stupidity.
Yeah, that I agree with. I mean, if it's not going towards biodiversity, if that fine is not something like let's say it's a trust fund or a fund set up saying that we'll keep it here, when you comply we'll give it back to you, but you have to show us that you're using this money for wildlife, or this court of justice says that this fine that has been received is being used elsewhere for biodiversity, then it's useless to actually like just fine. Then it's just one of those things that you've not followed this law, let us get this money and then use it for something else altogether.
Exactly. I'm just trying to find um in the article that if there is any indication as to where this money is going. But it appears the that it's all going towards like court fees or things like that. It's covering everything that happened. Then it's maybe going towards something related to conservation, if not in Portugal, somewhere else. Um,
Yeah,
but
it yeah, it's hard to tell because it's nice that there is fines. So like Portugal has to be more careful about how it's planning out its biodiversity goals. So it's great that there's some amount of like restriction or some restraint or some punishment. So Portugal will be more careful about how it uses its money and how it's not achieving or achieving its goals. But at the same time, we do not know that that's such a heavy penalty if it is being actually used for something that Portugal could have used itself to gain those goals. So I think ideally it would be great if this court could hold that money and then give it back to Portugal once it complies, and make sure that Portugal just invests that money back into nature and biodiversity, or maybe give it to another country which doesn't have that amount of funds, and make sure that that country invests into nature and biodiversity.
yes, I think as long as it's going towards nature and biodiversity, doesn't not have to be Portugal itself. It can go in, some other country in the EU, or some other developed or developing nation outside the EU. But as long as it's going towards conservation and bio, or it can go to an NGO that is working in Portugal or somewhere else. Anywhere, but as long as it's going towards conservation and wildlife, that is fine. But the article does not very clearly state where this money is going, and that leads me to believe it is just a financial punishment, and it would cover the court fees and the lawyer fees and the judges fees and whatnot, the judges salaries and whatnot, and nothing more than that, and rest will go to the EU coffers. Which I might be completely wrong, again, no idea, but appears that way, and that is not good use of that kind of money.
Yeah, we have to wait and see what's going to happen. It's
Mm,
in some ways positive because there's a fine when someone
yes.
doesn't comply with biodiversity goals, but at the same time, the fine is so huge, so we do not know where that money is actually going to. But talking about the EU, there's actually another contradictory kind of news where it has fined Portugal, but there are other places it's not implementing its biodiversity policies itself. It's news that says um, that we do not have time. So, this is an interview with MEP Delara Burkhardt on the EUDR's second delay. The European Union's landmark law to combat deforestation, the EU Deforestation Regulation or EUDR, passed in 2023, is facing significant setbacks. Initially hailed by environmentalists as a key part of the EU's Green Deal, the EUDR aimed to restrict import of goods linked to deforestation. However, the 2024 EU elections resulted in a shift to the right, fueled by opposition to the costs of environmental policies. This change led to amendments weakening the regulation and delays in its implementation, postponed twice, first for a year and then again. Concerns are rising about whether the EUDR will be fully enacted, as some factions now label it as an overly bureaucratic monster. Delara Burkhardt, a lead negotiator on the EUDR, highlights the importance of the regulation amidst these political challenges. And this is starkly or like completely different to the last story because the EU court has actually it has actually fined Portugal for failing to protect biodiversity, and here the entire European Union's deforestation regulation uh, is weakened. It's not following the policy. There is no amount of there's opposition to the cost, and it's not even close to what it started out with. So where is the fine here?
Exactly. I think it's a little bit lopsided, these laws and things like that. Um, Again, I think it's all about the bottom line, right? Where the bottom line is being achieved, or where the bottom line is not being achieved. It's all about the finances, the economics of things, and where the bottom line is going, and what are we gaining from that bottom line. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal, the entire situation. um
Yeah, but I mean, ideal is one thing, but there are news from the same week where you're fining Portugal for failing to protect biodiversity, and in the same week, there's landmark law to combat deforestation that is facing like delays over delays, and like there's opposition and there is no implementation, and here there is no fine. Like how is this okay to be passed over? Like, yeah, um we are going to do this, we will surely do this, and we might do this, and at the same time you're like, finding Portugal saying that, oh, you should have done this, how have you not done this?
Yeah, I think that money from the Portugal fine should go towards these guys. Whatever the court fees and whatever is the barrier for these guys to pass this landmark law. Yeah, it should go towards them to make sure that the law gets passed. You know.
Yeah, I mean, either that or start fining or start penalizing here as well, so that there's
Yes,
some amount of action that's being taken. Because if just by the elections, the whole policy can change and there can be a shift to opposition, opposing the costs of environmental policies, then it's not really a strong landmark law that you came up with. And there shouldn't be, like, I think, a difference in how you would treat Portugal and how you're treating this issue. These both issues are same. They're both environment related. They're both related to deforestation and protecting biodiversity, and they
both in
both
the
should have
EU.
this. Yeah, both in the EU, and so they need to be dealt with the same strictness.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think different standards cannot be applied to um, different issues here. We will follow this seems like an interesting space to be in, and we'll follow these stories over what happens from the EU, because obviously EU controls a lot of different countries. It has influence over a lot of different countries, so whatever decision it makes impacts and affects a lot of different countries. So it's crucial that they make policies and decisions that are uniform and does not show any favoritism, or does not pick and choose from issues. So we'll follow these issues over the next weeks as well, if there are any updates or if there are any new developments regarding any of these ones.
Yeah. So yeah, so two opposing news, but both concerning biodiversity. Let's see uh, what the updates are.
Right. Let's go for the Brazil story next. This is again a judiciary related story, and we have talked about the role of judiciary and how we feel the role of judiciary should be in a conservation space, from a conservation viewpoint, right? So this story comes from Mongabe as well. It says Brazil Supreme Court opens path to mining in indigenous land for the first time. Brazil's Supreme Court recently authorized the possibility of mining within indigenous territories for the first time, responding to a request from Senta Larga Association in Amazon. This does not immediately permit mining, but compels Congress to create regulations for mining on indigenous lands, with a one-person territory limit proposed. The decision addresses economic disparities faced by Sinta Larga, whose lands contain significant diamond deposits illegally exploited, causing environmental damage and conflict. Currently, they don't benefit from this activity. The court framed regulation as a matter of indigenous autonomy, allowing communities and companies to mine with proper oversight and profit sharing for collective benefit. Leaders hope this will improve living conditions and economic independence. This is one of the stories when we were scripting as well. We were quite conflicted on what exactly should be the outcome here, like when we were trying to form our views as well, because on the one hand it is it is definitely going to harm the environment, but on the other hand the indigenous communities, there will be some economic stability and economic socio-economic development from that um, community standpoint.
Yeah, plus I think if the diamond deposits are being illegally exploited, maybe with with mining regulations in place, they might not be illegally exploited. I think with the 1% territory limit that is proposed, that might be a good start in the sense that that there's only a 1% territory limit and the rest cannot be. But the problem with, I think, humans is, like, let's say right now the indigenous community want these illegally exploited diamond mines to be regularized, and that could be regularized. But right now it's 1%, and then the indigenous community start getting money, they start having a better life, that they're like, oh, let us give more of this territory to mining, like let us open up more of these territories. Then they go and demand like an expansion. And Amazon is a one of those places, like, it's sad that the indigenous communities have to give up part of their livelihood and ambitions, because it's more important to save the Amazon. But it is a very real picture where they might want to prioritize their own living at some point of time. And we do not know what that means. Like right now I feel like I sympathize with them, and I feel like it's good to have these regulations. But at the same time, I don't know what the future means if these lands are opened up to mining.
Yeah, I think that proverb comes into play where you say, "You give an inch, take a mile." So that can be the case, and historically speaking, that always has been the case. So we'll have to be aware of that. Hopefully, there are some, um, you know, boundaries set in place or some conditions set in place that this 1% cannot be overnight increased into 10% or 12% or whatever. But let's hope that this brings some prosperity, the desired prosperity, because there is a big chance that some big company will swoop in and try to take all the profits from the indigenous lands and things like that. But it's, I think, good that some regulations will happen, which means maybe the illegal mining is actually causing more harm than it's than in a regulated way, if mining happened in a regulated way.
Yeah, if that is the case, then yes, it is great, because that is what we are also thinking. Because if they're already being illegally exploited, it's better to legally exploit. No, maybe legally mine these
Legal
places.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're still exploiting, but yeah, it's you're doing it legally.
Yeah, and it might be better for the indigenous communities, because they are, it is hard for them where all of these illegal activities are taking place. But we'll have to wait and see how this pans out, because that 1% territory limit that has been proposed, that shouldn't increase in the future, because the one can go to five, can become 10, and then slowly, a big chunk of the Amazon has just been regulated for mining.
Right. That is a very real possibility. That is a very real possibility.
Yeah, because we
Um,
know how humans operate, and it doesn't matter if you're indigenous and you love your land. Once you see money and you see a better lifestyle, more and more people are drawn to a better lifestyle.
100%. 100%. To think otherwise would be thinking, you know, would be being, not living in reality, basically.
Yeah, it would be living
So
under a rock.
exactly.
Uh, yeah. So we'll
So
keep you updated. Brazil has a lot of stories that have come up. Like we've dealt with the shark story before, then the soy moratorium, and now this. Lots of interesting wildlife stories from there.
yeah,
But we'll keep you updated on each of them. Let's get on to the next topic. This is a topic from, it says, Galapagos of West Africa. How the Galapagos of West Africa is plundered by floating fish factories. An investigation by The Guardian and the Smog reveals illegal fish meal and oil production is depleting vital fish stocks of Bissau's coast. Local fishers on the Bijagos archipelago, a crucial breeding ground nicknamed the Galapagos of West Africa, face hardship due to a broken ice factory hindering their ability to preserve catches of silver flat sardinella. This small oily fish is a cornerstone of the local ecosystem, feeding endangered species like turtles and manatees, migratory birds, and larger marine life. However, industrial vessels are aggressively fishing sardinella near the protected area, converting thousands of tons into fish meal and oil, disrupting the food chain and threatening the archipelago's diversity. The lack of governmental response to local concerns exacerbates the problem. And I think this is very, very similar to our krill story that we did, I think last week
yeah,
or last week. It is that there is one small keystone species, so the krill in Antarctica feeds all the animals that live there, or is the first thing that is fed, and then it goes up the hierarchy. It's the same thing with the sardinella here. So for these for the manatees and for the turtles, for other birds, everything depends on this sardinella. It is their food, it is their survival, and to take that out of the ecosystem at like a rampaging speed is not good for the environment, especially the marine environment. So if you're going to kill the sardinella, you're killing everything effectively in the ocean there, and then you would have no sardinella to hunt. So all these industrial vessels that are aggressively fishing, they would have nothing to fish after a few years.
yeah. Um, that's the whole problem, and I don't know what fish meal is, but I guess it is feed for other farmed fish, or shrimps or things like that. So this are feeding some endangered fish species as well, which is the same thing with krill, feeding all the endangered mammals of the ocean and fish of the bigger fish of the ocean. I think this cyclic nature of um, how ecosystems work, we often fail to realize that as a species, as humans, we fail to realize everything is connected with the every other thing. We take one out of the equation, it's very difficult to say what it will do to all the other things that depend on that particular species. And as you can see here, um, there is this that is the same case here as well. I wonder if the government is doing anything. Is there any talks of like a government policy or a ban or something like that?
No, it literally says that the lack of governmental response to local concerns exasperates the problem. So the government is least interested. I'm going to actually share really quickly the article, and there's a lot of interesting things in the article. One obviously talks about how the local fishermen are not being prioritized. So there's this ice factory that has broken down, so they cannot fish and keep the fish effectively to feed their own families and the local population, while big
Hmm.
industrial vessels are going under the radar and they are plundering the oceans. And this place is called the Galapagos because of the amount of turtles and manatees that you can find here. So there's like
Hmm.
it is one of those wildlife places that's thriving, and it's beautiful, but we're not saving it, we're plundering it. So this is the article, and this is one of the bigger vessels. So you see all these vessels anchored near the port of Bissau, so like huge vessels, and they're all fishing there. Um, these are the local tiny fishermen who are trying to survive. So this is Pedro, who is wading through the shallow water looking for fish, but they are having problems with no ice factory. So this is these artisanal fishers. So these tiny fishers, the fishermen who are trying to sell it at the port. So they're not the ones who are trying to cause the harm, it's the bigger ones. Then there's this whole thing about disabling the detection system. So new boat, the Huazin, and mostly it's Southeast Asian countries who would reach these kind of places and do all these illegal activities, especially with fishing, as we've seen everywhere. It was anchored for 157 days, and it just did not come under the detection system because they disabled it. And another factory was spent 244 days. So this is where it gets sad. So this is all the the Chinese vision vessel receiving fish from another vessel. So
Mm.
these vessels are going undetected, and this vessel, evidence suggests, that has regularly illegally transshipped sacks of fish meal. So they're just out there in the open. There's news, there are photos. Um, there's some inspectors obviously boarding and checking, but too late. These, and if you see this local fisherman, he actually has that fishing technique, that doesn't scrape the bottom, that doesn't cause harm, that they take only as much as is needed and then they go away. They're not the ones causing the harm. It's all these illegal huge vessels that are causing the problem,
Mm.
and these are the gray mullets and the sardinia. So the flat sardinella, the sardinella, these are the fish that are being caused, and now they're saying that it's entering the EU market because of the fish meal operations that are increasing. So that means that there might be more pressure for which places and where they might be needed. And this is a
Mm.
satellite view of the country of Guinea-Bissau. Bissau. Yeah. So that's just really sad. This is a still from the video where this ship, the Horizon, that wasn't being detected in the waters, that's receiving fish from another vessel. And look at the amount of fish that it's receiving. It's just crazy the amount of
Mm.
fish that they would have fished illegally from this place. And this is the sad part about, I think, most illegal fishing that's happening everywhere. That there are no proper checks. It's very hard to keep checks, and when that last fish would have gone from the ocean, that is when they would be like, oh, we should have saved it.
Yeah, I don't know why our summary did not pick this up, but it does speak about a landmark ban. After a coup in November, in late January, new authorities took the radical step to regulate. The Minister of Fisheries and Maritime Economy, Virginia Maria de Cruz Godinho, P.S. Correa, announced a sweeping ban. Oh, that's a very long name. But anyway, announced a sweeping ban of fish meal and fish oil production on sea and on land, and suspended license for purse seine fishing of small pelagic fish. So I think this is the the result of the report or the investigation that was done by the Guardian also is mentioned in the article, but the article also does say the challenge lies in enforcement, as is with any law or any legal thing. According to Daiha Belhabib from Eco Trust Canada, I don't think a ban will make them disappear, unquote. She says, quote, at this point in time, Guinea-Bissau does not have the capacity to enforce control at sea, end quote. So I think there is some response from the government, but as is mentioned here, that maybe the enforcement capacity might not be enough at this point. But there is a landmark decision that Guinea-Bissau has taken, and which is a step that is going farther further than any of its neighbors. is hailed as turning point by Oceana, Greenpeace, and TMT. So I think this investigation has some light at the end of the tunnel. There is some good that is happening out of this. But again, that enforcement and the capacity to enforce this landmark ban remains to be seen. How much Guinea-Bissau can the government can enforce these laws and bans.
Yeah, I think the problem is, and if you've ever seen this, what is that volunteering organization that goes after all these illegal fishing boats in the ocean?
Sea Shepherd.
Sea Sea Shepherd, yeah. So Sea Shepherd is one of those organizations that actually goes after illegal boats, keeps a watch on them, tracks them, sees their activity, gets local government involved, gets the boat like seized, and it's a long, long, long process. So this landmark ban that they're talking about, it might actually affect the small fishermen than actually these big boats that go unnoticed, because if they're not being able to be, if they're not detecting these boats on the radar, it's probably going to be really, really hard to make sure that they can enforce this ban. And it's very different enforcing it on land and enforcing it in the water. So they need to
Yeah.
have more patrolling and more checking than was probably checked earlier. That is the only way they can save that area.
Mm, yeah. Um, Again, we'll follow this story as one of the prime minister stories as well. Um, for now, it looks like there is some response from the government, but there is obviously a huge problem in enforcing that. Obviously, not maybe not a huge navy fleet or coastal guard fleet waiting in Guinea-Bissau right now, but um, a ban at least means that on some levels those things are regulated and checked when applying for a new permit and things like that. So some deterrents are there, but we'll follow the story and present any updates if anything goes further in the good or the bad direction.
Yeah. We will keep you updated on this news, and we hope that this landmark ban, and it is surprising that our summary didn't pick up this thing, but I hope that they can enforce it, and I hope that they save these Galapagos of West Africa, because the Galapagos in South America is definitely protected, and it's one of those places that people go to see the protected wildlife. So hopefully this area can also be protected enough that people travel to Guinea-Bissau just to see the protected wildlife. Hope that's one of the things that can be enforced and can be promoted, so that there is more tourism and more protection.
Right, right. Um, Let me do a quick species um story. This comes from The Guardian, and it says large tortoise shell butterfly no longer extinct in UK. The large tortoise shell butterfly is no longer extinct in the UK, confirmed by a surge of in sighting this spring in southern England. Butterfly Conservation has declared it as a resident species for the first time in decades, increasing Britain's native butterfly count to 60. Sightings occurred in Kent, Sussex, Hampshire, Dorset, Cornwall, and this Isle of Wight, indicating successful hibernation and potential re establishment. While cautiously optimistic, experts emphasize the population isn't yet widespread. Unlike the common tortoise shell, the large shell is tree dwelling, with caterpillars feeding on elm, willow, and poplar. Rising temperatures are believed to have facilitated its return migration from mainland Europe after 60 years. Okay, that's a good looking butterfly, very beautiful.
But
And
I think oops, we use the pronunciation with what we grew up. Tortoise.
yes, tortoiseshell. That's what I deliberately pronounced it like that.
Oh,
Um,
wouldn't it be tortoise? Tortoise
yes,
shell?
it would be. It would be. It
Yeah.
would be. Uh, the very beautiful looking butterfly, the tortoise shell or the tortoise shell, however we want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't
And
know why
if
it's called
you
tortoise shell. I don't see a shell or a tortoise anywhere here.
I think it's something to do with the little patterns at the top. There's obviously some way of naming these birds. Something that resembles, sorry, not birds, but insects. Even with birds, there is something of naming. It might be the edges, probably, or the little black dots. Something that reminds them of a tortoise, and maybe the little thing in the middle, its body also resembles a little like a tortoise. Could be any of it.
Mm,
We have to actually read up on why it's that. But if any of the people watching this actually play games like Forest Shuffle, which is a game on species in the forest, then you would have come across this in the game. So there's a tortoise shell butterfly that you can collect and add to your forest. So that's yeah. So when we were scripting, I told Oops that.
yeah, and this this return is good, but the reason for the return is not very good because it is saying that rising temperatures have helped the large tortoise shell migrate from mainland Europe back to southern England after more than 60 years away. Rising temperatures, not really a good thing.
Yeah, but I'm actually confused. What made them drive away then? Like the cold, but it wasn't warmer 60 years back. It was cooler 60 years back.
Um, I think it must be warmer 60 years back, and
And
or
then we had
certain
an
patches might have been warmer, and global warming actually made them cold, and now global warming is making them. I don't know, but
or maybe they were just different tortoiseshell butterflies there that adapted to the cold. Then they died because of some kind of extreme cold wave, and they did not come back. And now they're coming back because of some amount of heat. I don't know.
right. So this says in the article that the loss of elms due due to Dutch elm disease was once considered a factor in the large tortoise shell's extinction in the UK by the 1960s. But lepidopterists now believe Britain may have always been the northerly limit of its natural range, and the species' return is now assisted by global heating. So, um, yeah, global warming not a good thing. The species returning, maybe some adding some color to the UK's grey skies, you know. But this the reason for its return, not very good.
So it's a bitter sweet story, as we might put
Correct,
it. Yeah.
correct. And there is also uh, I record a free citizen science app. If any of our listeners are from the UK, I know there are some listeners from the UK from the statistics that we receive. So all of you UK listeners, this is the app, the I record app, and this is I think a UK specific app, and you can go there and look up your district and your zone and things like that, and you can record species that you see on your walks, evening walks, runs, or anything like that. So, citizen science again, we have talked about citizen science in the BirdX story that we did a few weeks ago. A great way to enrich our understanding. So, any of you, if you want, you can download this app on your phone and record any sightings and, play some wildlife shuffle in real life and go collect this butterfly on your iRecord app. But yeah, that's all we had to say for this story.
Yeah. Um, it's a one of those bittersweet stories, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. So moving on to the next topic, it says mass stranding of whales on Scottish beach caused by loyalty to their pod, a report finds. A report has determined the mass stranding of 55 long finned pilot whales on the Isle of Lewis, Scotland in 2023 was due to the whales' strong pod loyalty. Initially, theories included trauma, disease, or noise disturbance, but the Scottish government's Marine Directorate found a combination of biological, behavioral, and environmental factors were responsible. Scientists believe the whales followed a female experiencing a difficult birth into shallow water. Despite being healthy beforehand, the entire group became stranded, attempting to stay with her. Dr. Andrew Brownlow emphasized strandings rarely have a single cause, highlighting the interplay between individual health, social behavior, and ocean conditions. This incident underscores the need to understand these interactions to better address the impacts of a changing marine environment. And I think that's just very, I mean, um, I wouldn't say it's probably beautiful and melancholic in the sense that the pod would stay together, but it means like if the pod is staying together, then all of them die together as well. So for one female trying to give birth, I think there's just a really heartwarming community relationship that these longfin pilot whales have, and a lot of
Mm.
these s- what would you call a pack of pilot whales?
I have no
Not as
clues.
I don't think it would be a
Maybe
school, right? Pod.
uh,
I think a pod
pod.
because dolphins are pods, yeah.
Mm.
So like this pod, that's quite amazing that they found this. I mean this through discovery or through research, but it's amazing that they all wanted to just be with that one female, and everyone gave up their life.
Mm. I didn't think they would have realized they're giving up their life, but maybe they would have. But I think intelligent species can be that way. Just a quick trigger warning for anyone watching the image because this can be triggering. But
But yeah, I've just shared a picture of them. So this was
yeah.
some of the stranded whales from the Isle of Lewis in 2023. That's a huge number of whales that you can see. And that's just one photo. It's a small article, but it's an important article because it gives an insight into the behavior of these um, whales, and we knew this even before that there's mass stranding of whales in a lot of places, but it's a new discovery to know that there is mass stranding because of loyalty and not anything else. Like obviously, like Oops is saying, it is possible that they didn't know that they were being stranded, but no matter how difficult the situation, they stayed together and they stranded
Yes,
together.
and I think the other point I was wanting to make is like we have seen a lot of good examples of high level of thinking and intelligence in uh, ocean-based mammals as well. Dolphins, whales, dolphins being the prime example, and some other. Uh,
And I mean whales, like obviously the orcas are also dolphins, but yeah, the killer
yeah,
whales.
yes. So anything in between. The pilot whales are also that family of cetaceans. Um, so yeah, I think they have, and all the social animals in general. I think social animals are generally more intelligent, and this example shows the exact same thing. Um, Except for octopus, strangely. I don't know how octopus are so intelligent. They're not very group living animals, but that is the outlier. But otherwise, all the intelligent animals are like group animals, not isolates or not solitary animals. But it's a heartwarming story, but at the same time, a little bit melancholic as well. Um, cool. Speaking of that, um, let me present you with some live cam fun. That sounded wrong, but this is
Yes.
uh,
Yes, it did. Very wrong.
this is a story from The Guardian. It says, "My lovely distraction, live stream of Kakapō, the world's fattest parrots, and her chicks captivates New Zealand." A live stream dubbed Kakapō Cam is captivating over 100,000 viewers worldwide. 1 lakh or 100,000, however you want to say it, worldwide, offering a rare glimpse into the life of Rakiura, a female kakapo, the world's largest and rarest parrot, as she cares for her chicks in New Zealand. The camera, hidden near her underground nest, broadcasts Rakiura feeding, protecting, and tending to her young. Launched by the Department of Conservation, which is the main forest agency in New Zealand, in January, the stream has fostered a dedicated online community sharing excitement and offering support. Viewers express the stream provides a welcome escape and fosters wonder for his this extraordinary threatened species. So look at Rakura. Let's look at Rakura for a second and see what she's doing. Apparently some digging action is going on. I feel like you can see the feathers are rustling a little bit. Where are the chicks though? I can't see the chicks. Oh, I can see maybe this fluff ball sticking up from the left of the kakapo. Um, that might be the chick. And again, this cam is black and white. So I will try and find a picture of a kakapo, how it looks. Um, Let me quickly do the search and um,
Yeah, till Oops is searching, this was literally what we were talking about. So the Kakapō is on an island where they're protected, which is predator free, and there is a lot of checks on them, and a lot of volunteer work goes into protecting and rearing these species. And I think they only give birth once in 5 to 6 years, so they're very slow with giving birth, is what I think. Oops, you only told me that, right?
yes,
Um,
their reproduction cycle is very slow. So this is a typical kagapo, very parrot-like, very green. These with his cheeks, a thick beak,
And
a very fat appearance.
I think you should have just shown the shagging video because that is what the Kakapa is famous for. If any of
um,
you have seen the Stephen Fry's video
Stephen
where,
Fry, yes,
yeah, there was this very famous Kakapa called Socorro, is what I think the name
Sirocco.
was. Sirocco, yeah, Sirocco. And Sirocco then climbed up on this cameraman's neck and he started shagging because he thought the cameraman was an attractive female. And yeah, he was being shagged by a really rare parrot. So that is
Look
where
at that.
Kakapos got really famous.
Look at Rakiura. She's preening or maybe digging something, caring for her chicks. You can see the nest. Again, underground nest. Oh, look at that. Oh, cute. Oh, she's turning, turning, turning. Very cute. Very cute.
I
Um,
still can't see the chicks though.
yeah, I think it's under her. Yeah, she's. I think that's what is hiding under her feathers. She's providing some warmth. It's starting to get colder in New Zealand, so maybe some giving some much needed warmth for our chicks. She's not facing the camera now, so we can't see her face, but very cute and very interesting to see the live cam of um, Rakiura. This is a little bit behind. Let me see what's the live that's going on. Oh, there we go. Okay. A dog ranger is actually checking up on the chicks. So, yeah, look at that. Look at the chicks. So cute. I think some measurements, some tagging is being done, and some, I think some weights need to be taken as well. Um, so that those are the things that is being done. Oh, what happened? Okay, okay, shifted. There's the one chick. There's the one chick.
And
Yes.
what is that in the corner? Is that just stone?
This one. Yeah, I think it's stone. Let's see the moment when she was taken out of the next nest. Let's try to find that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. When did the dock rangers come in? We came in at a very opportune time, I think. Uh, let's see, let's see. Yeah.
So
So I think so. Again, we were talking about this that the kakapos nest underground. So that means that is because the predators in New Zealand they were from the sky. So underground nesting made sense for all of the birds that live here. So kakapos included.
what was the eagle's name?
The Haast eagle.
The Haast eagle, yeah. So the Haast eagle was this huge eagle that used to hunt down these birds, and especially the moa because it was the most visible. It was this huge ostrich type of bird. But when the Maoris came, they killed the moas and effectively wiped out the Haast eagle. And because of the Haast eagle, what happened was these birds that I effectively term as useless
Hmm,
is because they would just freeze, and that was a good technique with avian predators because if you freeze then they do not see your movement, so they wouldn't come to catch you. Sadly all of that changed because humans arrived and humans brought in other animals with them. I think till the Maori were there it still wasn't as bad, but once the Europeans or the Britishers arrived, then there was full on mayhem because there was a lot and a lot of killing and culling and hunting. That led to these populations being driven down. And now at least this is something I absolutely approve of, like a whole island to them, taking care, making sure that the species thrives. That is great, but not at the expense of just killing and culling everything. In this island obviously they killed and culled everything to make sure that this island was free and these birds could thrive. But
yeah,
at the same time these birds require a lot of work. As you can see, the dog
correct.
volunteer came in, she took the check for measurement. There's a lot of work that goes into get them to mate as well. So it's one of those
Hmm,
things like the pandas in China. So like people really love the pandas, but the pandas just can't survive without our help and our interference. If you left them in the wild, they would decimate very quickly because they do not have the survival skills to survive in the
correct.
wild. And similarly with these birds also it's become like that. They become these keystone species that we want to protect because they look so beautiful and they're so rare and they're so different, but they require a lot of help. And I think that
Yes.
dog person came back. You
Oh
just get
yeah, trying to come back. Yes. Oh, she's replacing the chick there. Oh, how cute! How cute is that? I think Rakura went somewhere to the left, and that's why the dock ranger had to step in. So yeah, a lot of monitoring going on. So two chicks. Um, we are hoping. So the second chick is being taken now, and we are hoping that both the chicks survive. Because obviously we are putting a lot of effort into their survival. In nature obviously both wouldn't survive, but here because we are putting in a lot of effort, we would hope that both the chicks would survive. Still very small chicks, so it's a great effort by the Department of Conservation to actually present us with this webcam. I have been watching this webcam a lot since I discovered this, but this is a very nice way to
yeah.
look at
This is
some
this is
faraway nature, because
this
people
is
are not
Oops's
allowed on this
idea
island.
of oh yeah, yeah, but this is also Oops's way of live webcam fun, as he puts it.
Yes, exactly. So I think very very cute chicks, and all the best to the mother and the team working behind rearing these two chicks. I'm sure the both the chicks will receive a lot of help from the Department of Conservation
And a
in
lot
their
of
entire
love
life
from
cycle.
everyone across New Zealand because kakapo are keystone species there, and
Yes,
people love kakapos. Even though you cannot actually interact with kakapos in real life, you would probably never see a live kakapo. The only kakapo I think people saw was what was that movie that Ashwika made? The
it's called
kakapo that
Sirocco.
oh, that was the same Sirocco,
Yes,
the shagging Sirocco.
yes.
Okay, yeah. So he toured across New Zealand, and I think people met Sirocco that time. But I do not know if there are kakapos in other places on the mainland, in other
No, there is a
protected
plan to
places.
introduce them once the population is stable, but right now there is not. Um, yeah, so I
Why
will
are they not
just
there? Why are they not there in the other protected sanctuaries? Won't they survive there?
no, because just because it requires a lot of effort. Maybe that's a probably a choice Doc has made. There are two islands, the Anchor Island and the Codfish Island. Those two islands have kakapos. So this gives Fenuaho. This is on Codfish Island. This particular check. So this gives a timeline, rough timeline. So January in 15th of January, Rakiura mated with Komaru. 21st, Rakura had Al and Buster Murphy, Moss and Guapo. 22nd, first egg laid at approx 4:30 p.m. 23rd, with Rakura now committed to the nest, Kakapō cam goes live. 25th, second egg laid at approx 3 p.m. 28th, third and final egg laid 2:36 p.m. 1st of January, nest check reveals 3 fertile eggs, 1 and 2 taken for incubation. So look at the amount of effort that we are putting in. 2 eggs remain in nest, egg 3 infertile. Egg 3 swapped with an infertile egg and moved to the incubator. Early embryo death of Rakura A1. Happy 24th hatch day, Rakura. Smart hatch day is as in their birthday. Um 21st, smart egg mimics pre-hatch chick sounds now in nest. Oh, so there was a smart egg. So that infertile egg was introduced, swapped with a smart egg. And 22nd, Rakura defends nest from mottled petrel intruder. Okay, very good. Status of infertile egg after scuffle undamaged. Rakura seems comfortable with daytime checks, which is helpful to know for planning the timing of our egg delivery and chick checks. 22nd, Rakura A2 hatches in another nest. 24th, first chick Vori A1 hatches in nest. And March, 1st March, Nora A2 egg transferred to nest. Second chick Nora A2 hatches in nest. 8th of March, Vori A1 2026 transferred to another foster mom. 14th of March, gold ranked male chick Heather A3 hatched 2nd March joins the nest. And what we are watching right now, we were watching Rakura is 24 years old, one of the 236 Kakapō alive today. So only 236 Kakapō. This is the first breeding season for her, critically threatened species since 2022. So as we said, like lot of breeding seasons can be long time apart, and you're looking at their underground nest. Sorry, that was a bit long, but that's sort of the timeline and what we were looking at right now.
Yeah. And again, obviously, islands and protected spaces like this, full approval, polarized hate and culling, no. But still nice to see the kakapos, nice to see that there's that effort, nice to see that uh, people want to save them and that population is growing. So that is nice to see that that there is that amount of love. But I wish that that love could be translated that way across other species in protected environments and have coexistence with other species. um, and we're at the end of our show. So I'll just give a quick message, which is did you know about brush-tailed possums, and did you know that there is so much polarized hate for these animals? Did you know that New Zealand absolutely hates them with with a passion, and Australia protects them and loves them, and there are other species obviously that Australia probably hates with a passion. What do you think, and what are your views on such kind of conservation efforts? Where do you come from in the world, and how does conservation work in your country?
Right. And as always, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. It means a lot. It also means that we can get this message out, get this kind of, different opinions. It's just about, having a range of opinions with you, so we can get this range of opinions out to as many people as possible. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't like it, the thumbs down button is there too. Definitely share this with all your friends and family. Leave a comment for any of us. We can get back to you or help us. That comment can help us improve as well. We are on all the major social media platforms, so share as much as possible and follow us on all the different social media platforms. If you're listening to a recorded version of this podcast, do leave us a rating. Again, that helps with spreading the message and getting this out to as many viewers as possible, as many listeners as possible as well. And yeah, just give us your feedback and give us your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. But that's it for today. And we will see you next Sunday. Same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.